And this is different than any clinic around.
Workouts that are tailored for her, and that really makes a difference.
Really personal. I've gotten way more mobile, stronger, flexible. So everything just improves me to the next level.
Welcome to the On Cue Performance Therapy Podcast, where we push sports performance and physical therapy to its apex. We change the game by bringing together the brightest minds in the field to offer best practices and question how things are done today. I'm your host, Mike Quintons, physical therapist and expert in sports orthopedics. I'm living my dream and opened a clinic that unites all elements of sports medicine under one roof to drive recovery and performance outcomes. Hi everyone, my name is Mike Quintons with the Physical Therapy and Wellness Institute in Newtown Square, clinic director here. I'm joined today by Alanna DiBiasi, staff therapist here at PTW Newtown Square, and we're going to talk about static stretching versus dynamic stretching. So take it away, Alanna. Let's talk about dynamic stretching first. What are the indications for it, and when is it appropriate to use?
Well, we were talking about dynamic stretching and how it's important before a game, before a run, to get the muscles educated in order to be able to perform better, and just kind of loosening up the muscles, but not over loosening up your muscles prior to engaging in any sport or activity.
And it makes sense, right? Before you engage in an activity like basketball or soccer or football or anything really, if you use a static stretch, you're stressing the muscles for an extended period of time to get them into what we call the plastic range. And in the plastic range is where you're going to get tissue elongation. So that's stressing the tissue. Why would you want to do that before competition or before use, before you put a demand on those muscles to perform? So dynamic stretching, like Alanna said, is going to improve blood flow to the area and get those muscles loosened up in a way that they're going to be used shortly thereafter. Are there any dangers to dynamic stretching in your opinion?
I personally don't think so, as long as you're doing the stretch appropriately. So knowing how to do them is important, just because that's what's going to get you the best effect. So, but we were even saying before, like, it's best to educate the muscles too before you perform to prevent injury and also stabilize the body before you're actually going to perform higher level activity or any type of running.
So dynamic, more of a warm up.
Yep.
Static stretching, on the other hand, when would you use static stretching?
Well, we were just saying that static stretching, probably, after you're doing exercises or after you have worked out already, that's a good time to loosen up the muscles after you're done with whatever you're performing.
Yeah,
so add on that.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So after an activity, to relax the muscles, you can do a static stretch. I feel like a static stretch is also indicated if you want to improve the extensibility of a tissue, meaning the flexibility and lengthen the tissue. Yeah. So in order to do that, the goal would then be to stress the tissue into plastic range, like I spoke about earlier, and you're going to elongate the tissue. That's going to stress the tissue. So you may not want to use it thereafter. So I would see that as a way to improve flexibility would be the use for static stretching. However, there are better ways to improve flexibility, or maybe jury's still out on that, but you can do isometric contractions at different ranges of motion. At end range, that's going to help with flexibility, as well as eccentric loading, which is essentially doing a negative. So an RDL or forward T for a hamstring, like a cable fly for a bench press, or for the chest rather, would also improve flexibility eccentrically.
And even a static stretch, you really have to hold it for a full 30 seconds to actually gain the result you want to gain to lengthen the tissue. And at that point, you need to perform it every single day for 6 to 8 weeks. And that's when you're going to gain extensibility of your muscle.
Good.
So before that, you really won't hit it. Like if you do under 30 seconds, you're not going to make a difference. But anything more than 30 seconds isn't going to make a difference either. So your gold standard is to hold it, though, for the 30 seconds.
Nailed it. That's what the research shows. Research shows for isometric contractions, the longer the isometric contraction, the more the greater the flexibility is at week 3 and 6 in the one article that we reviewed. So there's plenty more research out there. I think we have a lot more to learn, and I think we have to apply these in the clinic. So do you want to share a couple ideas on how you can apply some of this in the clinic?
The isometric or the dynamic?
So just
or...
a dynamic versus static.
Yeah, and even I feel like with, depending on who the patient is, I'll put them through a dynamic stretch warm-up routine.
Yeah.
And also depending on where they're at in their course of therapy. So as they're improving, as we're getting them back to either running again or performing their sport, it's like I usually try and get them set with a dynamic warm-up that they're doing on their own and when they're in here to make sure it's done appropriately. And then there's other patients where it's like, hey, if you're in here for back pain and a lot of it's because your hamstrings are really tight, I'll go towards more the static approach or the isometric approach with them.
Yeah, so a way you could use it, like you just said, is dynamically before their strengthening exercises, maybe even after some of the manual therapy, depending on how aggressive you're being with that. Heck, you could even do some of the dynamic stretching on the treatment table with, your manual therapy, like active release technique and some of those other techniques, myofascial release, where maybe it's not sustained as long and you're going through different motions. And then afterwards, more static stretching may be appropriate if you're looking to relax the muscle, as well as improve flexibility. So, I think that's it. Anything else you want to add?
No, I think that's good.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us. And if you have any other questions, please let us know. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the On Cue Performance Therapy Podcast. If you like this episode, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It would mean so much to me if you could leave us a 5-star review so more listeners like you could get this important information. See you next time.